guys, welcome to another episode of Culture Shock. I am Zain.
I'm Fauzi, and we are both from sunny little island, Singapore.
Ding! And today we have fellow Singaporeans who have lived abroad before, and we want to check on them, what are the differences in cost of living overseas compared to Singapore, as well as some culture shock that we have experienced before, right?
Yes.
Okay, so today we have, first up.
Hi, I'm Mitch and I studied in Sydney for 6 months.
Hi, I'm Jerry and I studied in South Africa for 3 months and another 3 months I was in Poland.
I'm Tabby. I lived in Japan for 5 years.
Hi, I'm Han. I lived in Hong Kong for 3.5 years and I lived in France for half a year.
Oh, very diverse.
Yeah, where shall we begin? Let's
don't
begin
know.
to the closest to Asia.
Okay, sure.
Maybe we go with Hong Kong first.
Okay, yes.
Right?
Yes.
Or Japan. I don't know, which one is nearer?
Hong Kong. These are geography, yes, I know geography. Hong Kong closer.
So Han, what were you doing in Hong Kong and what were you doing in Hong Kong for?
Yeah, so basically I was in Hong Kong. I was doing my undergrad there. How I came about to go to Hong Kong is because my parents actually moved there almost a decade now. They've been living there, so I've been by myself in Singapore. I couldn't go with them because I was serving national service at the time.
I see.
Yeah. So I went there sort of to have more time with them as well and to do my undergrad. So that was how I ended up in Hong Kong basically.
So when you were in Hong Kong, do you stay with your family or do you stay separately from them?
So my family had a rental there. So basically when I went there, it was to spend more time with them, so I stayed with them.
So how big was this rental apartment and how much did it cost?
Yeah, that's actually the big question in Hong Kong, right?
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, I watched a previous episode where someone discussed the housing in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Apparently, it's very tiny.
Is it true?
It is true. Basically, you pay more for rent while getting a smaller place to live in. For example, in Hong Kong, there's this culture. Let's take Chinese New Year example. In Singapore, Chinese New Year, there's this habit where we invite our friends and families to our home, to have a meal together.
Yeah.
In Hong Kong, because of these small living spaces, what happens instead is that they have more of a culture of going out to restaurants and dining outside. So in some way, the culture adapts, to the living conditions.
Understand.
Oh.
But maybe we talk about the next Asian country, Japan.
So the place where I was at was further north. I was in a city called Sendai, which is the biggest city in this region called Tohoku. And so I had a roommate, both of us, we had an apartment, combined rent, 2 bedrooms with a living, dining and kitchen space. And that was 74,000 yen a month. At current exchange rate, where the yen is horribly low, it's about 740 Sing dollars a month.
Oh,
that's not too
whole
bad.
apartment combined, so each of us only paid 300 plus.
Wow!
It's incredibly affordable, actually.
I'm booking my flight.
Wait. But is it true, some apartments, they rent a bit lower because, got somebody commutes?
Oh my god!
It's true. But,
true, right?
but by law,
Yeah.
they have to tell you that
Oh.
that is the history of the apartment.
Oh, I am okay with living with some ghosts. I'm so fine with that. Okay.
But that is in Sendai. But in Tokyo, do you know how much is is it going to be different, the rent?
Again, Tokyo, they call it the 23 wards of Tokyo, so that's the more central Tokyo, and then they have the outskirts of Tokyo, right? So within the 23 wards, so just 1 bedroom with a dining and kitchen, so not even living space, would probably be $700.
Oh, that's still okay.
Yeah, that's still okay.
Oh yeah, compared to Singapore, probably.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It
I would
is.
not have expected that.
Yeah, because I
Yeah.
would think that, it's going to be more expensive.
Yeah.
For some reason.
Or comparable to Singapore, I feel. At least.
Yeah.
Okay, let's fly.
We fly to
where? France.
France, yeah.
This France, I watched Emily in Paris. This is my extent of my knowledge of France and living in France.
Those
Emily
are
in Paris.
Lies, no lies.
Okay, but real estate
Yes.
in France, living in France for half a year, how was it like for you?
Okay, I can't give you the cost of the rental because basically we were living in accommodation.
Okay.
So it's like a hostel, that the university provided. I spent most of my time in the southern French city. It's called Lacoste. So it was a very rustic, old, traditional, a medieval city.
Was it really nice to open your window, then you see the castle there and then the hillside?
it,
Is it very serene?
It is, I sometimes when I wake up and I open, I thought I was in a Lord of the Ring movies.
Oh, hey, wow, what is cool.
Interesting.
Okay, maybe then we fly to Poland or fly to Sydney first.
Sydney
South
far, we'll
Africa?
come back to Sydney later.
Oh, Sydney last.
Yeah, Sydney last. Let's start with Poland first.
Poland first,
We're
okay,
already
sure.
adjacent to France. Yeah.
Okay, so the context is actually I went to Poland. It's part of the humanitarian program.
Right.
So it was just last year, and I was there because of the war lah.
I see.
In Singapore, you usually go to Malaysia buy things, right? Because it's cheaper.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in Europe, people go to Poland to buy things.
Oh, is
because
it?
it's cheaper.
Oh.
I've never heard that. Okay.
Yeah.
Like if you compare to Malaysia, price is almost the same. That's how cheap it is.
Really?
Oh.
Okay, cool. Maybe we'll talk about South Africa then.
Yeah.
Okay.
You spent more time in the
there,
South
right?
Africa, I
Yeah.
assume.
Yeah.
So I was in Cape Town, for 3 months. I was at this place called Museumberg. So I know how he felt, when you wake up and then you're like, wow, you have like the best view. Yeah, accommodation is also cheap. The first 3 months I was staying in the place with other international students. And then the last month I did like a tour. Then that's when I was staying with different houses, with different families.
Oh,
Last but not least,
Mitch.
Sydney.
Yep, so I was doing university exchange in Sydney for 6 months. So I stayed in a lodging off campus, but they also like affiliated with the school. And the rent was about, I shared it with my schoolmate. So
For
like
the
1K ish.
entire thing. Okay,
just
okay.
for my side. But it was quite rundown lah, I have to say. It's like those with the carpeted floors. But it's funny because it's carpeted, but they still don't remove their shoes.
Which is a perfect segue into like culture shock. Yeah, what are some of the culture shocks that you may have experienced? So
Yeah.
maybe let's talk about Asian countries. Are there any differences in cultures that really make you think that, oh shit, I'm not in Singapore anymore?
For the most part, I think there wasn't anything too surprising because Japan's another developed country, right? I assume that most people would be well traveled, or at least they would have gone out of their country before. So it was quite unexpected that half, if not majority, of the Japanese people don't own a passport.
Oh wow!
Yeah, they don't. They've never been outside their country.
Wow.
They only travel domestically.
This is interesting. It's very similar to America, actually. I spent a significant amount of time in the US as well, and New York in itself different from like the rest of the country. Plenty of Americans have not even traveled outside of America or even Canada even. And it's very normal for them to not even have a passport. This is very interesting. What about Hong Kong?
I guess first thing first is a language issue, right? Because in Hong Kong, they mainly speak in like Cantonese. So I'm not a Cantonese speaker myself. So of course, when I went there, I had a bit of difficulty. I think the second point more on the, I would say the mentality of people living there. Because it's such a dense city, they have a population of over like 8 million people, So it's a very competitive culture. How that translates to day-to-day life is that you oftentimes go to a cha chan teng, which is Cantonese for like a cafe. You sit down, you order your food, and the waitress would be very rude. They would slam the menu down. They would ask you what you want to order, and give you less than a minute to give them a reply. And even then, walking on the streets, people would just like bump into you, and they won't even turn around and say like sorry or anything. So in some way, living that culture, after a while, you become more thick-skinned.
Oh my god, I think I would be damn stressed because I'm very indecisive and I want to. I'll be like,
Can you give me some more time?
yeah, she will be damn angry with me.
Oh no.
Oh my god, but is that competitive, huh?
It is, yeah. Just because the population is so big, so large,
Then obviously France was a completely different
yeah.
experience.
Actually similar.
Oh.
Because language as well.
Okay.
You speak to them in English, for example, they would reply me in French. And I wouldn't even be able to continue the conversation. So how I overcome that was simple. If I go to a restaurant, I sort of knew what I wanted to order beforehand. I would use Google to search the French,
Very smart, very smart.
Love that. Okay.
the French name, listen to the pronunciation of the French words, go in and order straight away. When you speak to them in French, you realize, things are smoother,
Yeah.
you get your orders faster, the waiters are friendlier.
Actually, South Africa, they speak English.
Oh,
pretty
awesome.
well.
Okay.
Yeah, so there was no problem communicating.
Oh, that's nice.
But in Poland, they speak a more atas language. They speak polished.
Got your joke there. Okay, awesome.
I think in Poland, it was pretty hard to communicate. Yeah, but there are some Polish people that speak a little bit of English, but
Right.
it's just not that easy. So I kind of get what he's saying. It kind of affects how I understand their culture also.
Interesting. All right.
Yeah. How about in Sydney?
The thing I found out about Sydney is that like, everyone is from everywhere. Like
Yeah.
you actually meet more like international people than like Australians. They speak English but they have different accents to it. So then my friend will tell me, like, because I'm not aware, that I actually do code switch when I speak to like different people. So like, if they are from like China, I speak like English a certain way, or like if they are from Spain, I speak English like another way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like the slang, is
Yeah.
it? Oh.
But it's still English.
Like you can switch to British.
What you know?
Like, do you feel like you had to change your dress style or your fashion sense when living in your particular country for that period of time? Maybe we will start with Japan.
I feel like the Japanese people have quite a
Tabby,
style.
Tabby is like laughing and she's like acknowledging my question.
I mean, first and foremost, they have 4 seasons. Unlike Singapore, you can wear the same thing the entire year. You can't. So you change what you wear based on the season. And the girls in Japan are incredibly fashionable, so makeup is a must. I found myself wearing a lot of skirts, doing a lot more layering, things that you don't normally wear in Singapore, I guess.
To add on to her point, I think Hong Kong is very similar to Japan, mainly because actually they are quite close. So any Japanese trends, for example, that come out of their fashion houses there, tend to carry over to Hong Kong quite fast. Singapore, it's always summer, right? So there is a lot of style from, let's say, Japan or even Europe that we cannot carry over to Singapore. But in Hong Kong, because they do have 4 seasons, so of course the fashion industry there is a lot more advanced. And as a result there, of course, people have a more sophisticated taste when it comes to, fashion, yeah.
Wow. Then how about in South Africa? Like, as in, do you have to change your dressing, or like how did they dress there? Do you have to adapt to anything?
Actually, when I was there, it was summertime. So they also have 4 seasons there.
Okay.
So whatever I was wearing in Singapore, I could actually wear it there. Yeah. But I think something common is, they don't wear slippers out. So the guys, or even the girls, they are always in shoes. Unless they are going to the beach. Yeah.
I think for Sydney, I feel like I was more myself in dressing wise.
I see.
Because I'm someone who loves like my outerwear, my layers. So there was a lot more like freedom for what I can wear. So like a lot of my clothes in my cupboard are just like sitting there because I can't wear them in Singapore.
Right.
So I can only like wear them overseas.
Yeah.
But for the people there, I think because I frequent like New Town, all these areas a lot, so like the people there are very interesting. So they wear like very like colourful, extreme fashion things, which is like really, really fun to see.
Maybe we can move on to
Yeah.
cost of living expenses.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
think that is, to me, the most important thing for me.
Yeah.
Like, can you manage to survive there without fearing for your bank account? Let's start with maybe Japan. Because I feel like Japan, again, my misconception maybe, general expenses may be pricey.
Yeah.
So Japan has been in deflation for the past how many years?
Oh, wow.
Which means things get cheaper over the years. I could survive very well and save money on a stipend of in Sing dollars, about 1,800 every month.
Oh.
When I go into a supermarket, how I know if the supermarket is like pricier or like cheaper, I check the price of spinach.
Oh, okay, interesting.
So in a pricier place, it will be like 198 yen for a packet of spinach. But if you go to like a really cheap grocer, it can be like 150, 128 yen sometimes.
Yeah, how about in Hong Kong? Like, I know you like, because you said that like during Chinese New Year, you guys eat a lot. Like, as in you guys eat at the restaurant.
Oh, yes,
So
yes.
do you eat out a lot more, or do you cook at home with the family?
So in Hong Kong, it was mainly eating out.
Oh.
Yeah, so there's a very big eating out culture there, and the meals there typically it's quite a filling set, right? It will cost you about maybe Sing dollars 10 to 12. So what I gotta say is that because they don't have what we have like a hawker culture here, coffee shops, right? So because of that, there is slightly more expensive when you eat out because it's all like cafe style or restaurant style.
Okay, how about in South Africa? Like the food wise, is it
Yeah.
like very different in compared to Singapore?
Yeah, it's quite different. They don't really have rice. In terms of cost, because I was in Cape Town, which is the more touristy area, a lot of foreigners. An average meal is about $5 to $6 Sing, which is the more on the expensive side.
Okay, so that's not
okay,
too bad
that's
then.
not too bad, yeah.
Then if you get a Starbucks coffee in Cape Town, it's about $3.50 Sing.
Wow.
Which is cheap, right?
Yeah,
Cheaper
sure.
than Singapore.
Yes.
Yeah. But over there it's considered expensive lah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the South Africans are very particular about coffee. To
Okay.
them, they have the best coffee.
Oh.
Yeah. So to them, sorry, but Starbucks is not real coffee.
Yeah, I bet they say that, yes.
Yeah.
We also cook, but I'm not the one cooking, so my friend. So I won't know the cost for the grocery, but I assume it's supposed to be quite cheap. Yeah,
Yeah.
like one whole bunch of banana is about $2 Sing.
Wow.
Love that. Sydney though. Sydney is, I know man, it's expensive.
So like the schools have like the canteens. Then,
Yeah.
okay, like you can get a meal for like maybe $5-6.
Yeah.
But like outside of it, the cafes, the restaurants is like 15 average,
Yeah.
just for like a main course. So like we actually cook a lot. So the groceries can be quite cheap. There's this market in Chinatown, this wet market that we go like every maybe Sunday because it's like the clearance day. So they close on Mondays. So like by Sunday they have to like clear everything. So there's like a really good sale going on just to like clear everything. So they will have like baskets of mixtures of things for like $1. So you just buy. So whatever you're gonna cook is just whatever you see at the market. Like today I'm gonna.
So you'll never be bored. It's a surprise.
So yeah, so the groceries are pretty cheap. So if we cook, then it's okay. So we don't really eat out a lot. Maybe like twice a week. It's just too costly.
Public transportation though in Sydney, isn't it quite expensive?
I think it's quite expensive.
Yeah.
But because I live like walking distance to school, so that's fine. But like traveling out, maybe like a one-way train ticket to maybe inner Sydney is about $4 plus.
right? Yeah.
Wow.
$4 Aussie
So like a return is like $9.
and that's like, it's per way if I'm not wrong.
Yes,
it's not
per
even
way.
per stop. So
Correct.
even if you take one stop, it's the same price.
What?
Yeah.
Wow. When you were in your respective countries, right, do you ever like fall sick? And then let's say if you did, like how did you actually get yourself treated in the hospitals or the clinics nearby?
So many times.
times.
Even though I was in Cape Town, there were days that when I opened the tap, right, the water is like a bit brown.
Oh.
But it doesn't always happen. So I was also a bit shocked. Yeah, and there was a few times that a few of us caught the stomach flu, like a bug going on.
Right.
Yeah, so a lot of times we fall sick. Among the Asian culture is, oh, you drink water lah, drink more water, you'll be fine, right?
But what's the brown though?
Yeah, so over there is like, unless you are really very serious, they're gonna faint, then they will send you to hospital. If not, they will just ask you to rest. They will buy filtered water for you and make sure you drink water. Oh, they always spam you vitamins. Eat more vitamin C, give you the capsule. Yeah, so that's how they kind of treat you.
Then how about in Japan? Like, because you were there for 5 years, right?
So thankfully I didn't really fall ill very much. But everyone who lives in Japan, you will have to be part of the Japanese health insurance.
Ah.
Yeah, so you pay a monthly premium and stuff, right? So everything is subsidized. You only pay 30%, 70% is subsidized. I go to the doctor, that's subsidized, and then I have to go to a pharmacy to get the medicine because they don't give it out at the doctor. And dental treatments are incredibly cheap because they're subsidized too. No.
Yeah, then how about in Hong
Hong Kong or France,
France, yeah.
Okay, France, I didn't fall sick there, thankfully.
Yeah.
So I couldn't talk about that. But in Hong Kong, they have more of a culture where you don't immediately like go and take Panadol and all that when you're sick, right?
Oh.
So there's more of a TCM culture.
Oh.
So I would say generally cost-wise, TCM is much cheaper than, seeing a Western doctor, right?
Yes.
But of course, TCM only works if you are just having a flu and you just want some herbs to, cure it.
Yeah.
If you have any like major things that require operation and all that, of course, you have to go to a Western doctor.
Yeah.
For Western doctor in Hong Kong, I would say the pricing is quite expensive.
Okay.
So it's comparable or even higher than what you're paying in Singapore.
I see.
Yeah, because Singapore government actually subsidizes a lot. Yeah.
Alright, so Mitch has shared about the cost of transport in Australia. What about you guys? You have to take transportation, or you're living in France in a palace. I don't want to leave.
It's a hospital.
Horse, yes. Your Grab is a horse.
So for me, I took the subway a lot.
Yeah.
A subway trip would be from 200 yen to about 300 yen each trip, so $2 to $3. I think public transport generally is more expensive in Japan. In Tokyo, it's cheaper just because of the sheer number of people taking it every day.
interesting.
So for Tokyo, it'll go down to like 110 yen perhaps for a train ride. But up where I was, it was at least 200. There were buses as well, and you would think that the buses would be very on time because it's Japan. Everything should be on time. That's not true.
Oh!
That's not true. As in, it won't be like 15 minutes late or anything that bad lah, but like 5 minutes late.
Okay, but that's not too bad.
That's not too bad.
I've been to
Yeah.
Sydney and the train says that it's coming in like 10 minutes. You wait there 30 minutes, still haven't come.
But what's really cheap is the domestic flights. Domestic flights are incredibly cheap.
Okay, do you have like a budget airline?
They have a budget airline, it's called Peach. And I can travel from, say, Sendai to Osaka on sale for $1,500. So $15. Yeah, so
That is our Grab ride. And even Grab ride from Pasir Ris to Jurong is more expensive.
Yeah, no.
What
It's
the
a
heck?
no.
Oh my god.
it's really good. Yeah, that's how I traveled Japan.
No wonder you live in Japan for so long. About Hong Kong, I'm not familiar with the public transportation in Hong Kong.
Yeah, so actually on the contrary to what you said, actually Hong Kong's public transport is super efficient.
Okay.
So their MRT there is called MTR. Because there's so much people living there, right? The transport has to be really quick.
Yes.
So for example, in Singapore, you could be waiting for a MRT train maybe on average 3 to 4 minutes.
Yes.
Okay.
Right? So over there, it's like every 1 minute.
Wow.
And the trains move at a faster speed than what they do in Singapore.
How much is it?
Okay, in terms of cost-wise, it's relatively similar to Singapore.
I see.
So the way you pay for it is similar. We use like EasyLink cards here, right? Over there, it's called Octopus card. So the Octopus card, you use it for the bus, for the MTR, and you even use it for vending machines to get drinks and all that. Yeah. So I thought that was quite a unique system where they actually combine everything to a single like a transport card. Yeah.
And in France, was it like also
A horse. Bicycle.
Yeah, actually bicycle. Yeah.
Bicycle.
So because in the small town we are in, there's no public transport at all.
Right.
So either we had a van that comes and pick us up if we are going on certain school excursions, right? Or we would have to actually rent a bicycle and we would cycle around to the nearby like farms and towns and all that. Yeah.
How about South Africa? Like, how do you travel around when you were
I can sum up South Africa train system is to not to take it.
the difference?
Oh wow. Okay, why?
So it's really not safe. So even if my friends were in a bunch of 5, right, I would still tell them not to take it because you can easily be outnumbered. But if you have one South African local with you, then okay. Yeah.
Oh.
Like, they will attack you on the train or something.
The chances of you getting marked is very high. Okay, the train only comes one in an hour. So if you miss the train, you have to wait for like 1 hour.
Oh
so
dear.
yeah, so in general, the safest way is to take an Uber. So
Okay.
it's actually quite cheap, about $2 Sing to $10, depending on the distance.
I see.
Yeah, so I always use the Uber, but even Uber is not always 100% safe because the Uber drivers will also share with me that they themselves got marked.
Oh,
Yeah, so
Okay, then, so on that note, like, do you have any tips for people
Yes.
who want to live abroad? Like, what you would want to suggest to our audience, let's say, if they do want to do that?
I think for me and like what I feel like people should do is to maybe take up some cooking. Pick up some cooking skills so like you can save a lot more money that way. Yeah, just learn to be more independent. I mean, you're gonna learn there, but like to start here is quite important, I feel.
I would say if you are struggling with homesickness or if that's one thing that you are worried about, what I would recommend is that when you settle down in a new place, you can try to find new hobbies. If, for example, if you want to fish, but I can't fish in Poland, right, then I can try something else in Poland so that you won't feel like there's a drastic change in your life and you also find a community that's a bit more like-minded.
Number 1, know Japanese before you go. Incredibly helpful.
Okay.
And then number 2, Daiso is your best friend. Number 3, buy secondhand. Yeah. Because it saves the environment as well.
Yes.
Okay, so my advice would be actually across all different countries.
Yeah.
I think the most important thing is always live in a new place with like a fresh mind. So don't bring your preconceived notions of how life should be. If you go there with a blank slate, right, you are able to actually live a completely different life. You are able to, understand the locals' way of living. And I think that's the true value of living abroad, Just being able to experience a different culture. It's almost like being born again.
Alright, so that's all that we have for today's episode of Culture Shock. So if you like this video, please remember to like, share, subscribe.
Ring the notification bell and watch our other videos over there.
Bye!